When did your father instantly become a legend? I was 14, at the state fair with my dad and little sister when the shooting started. We were near the main stage when people began screaming and running. I saw the gunman about 50 yards away, firing into the crowd. My dad instantly pushed us behind a food truck, but there were families trapped in the open with nowhere to hide. What happened next still doesn't feel real. My dad, my 45-year-old accountant dad who wore polo shirts and drove a minivan, looked at me and said, "Keep your sister here, don't move." Then he sprinted straight toward the shooter. I thought I was watching my father run to his death, but my dad moved like nothing I'd ever seen. He used fleeing crowds as cover, zigzagging between overturned tables and abandoned strollers. The shooter turned toward him and fired. Dad dropped and rolled behind a metal trash bin as bullets sparked off it. In one fluid motion, my dad grabbed a metal tent pole from a collapsed vendor booth and hurled it like a javelin. It hit the shooter's weapon, knocking it sideways just as he fired again. The shot went wide. Before the gunman could recover, my dad had closed the distance. The takedown was brutal and efficient. Dad swept the shooter's legs while simultaneously controlling the weapon. They went down hard, but my dad already had the gun stripped and the magazine ejected before they hit the ground. He used the shooter's own belt to bind his hands, then kicked the weapon parts in different directions. By the time police arrived, maybe 2 minutes later, my dad had the shooter face down and completely immobilized. He stood up, hands visible, and calmly directed officers to where weapon parts were scattered. Then he walked back to us like he'd just finished grocery shopping. My sister was crying. I was in shock. Dad just hugged us and said, "It's over. You're safe." His shirt was torn, and he had blood on his hands. Not his, but he seemed completely unfazed. The aftermath was insane. 17 people had been shot before my dad intervened. Witnesses said he probably saved dozens more. News crews surrounded us. Everyone wanted to know how an accountant knew combat disarmament techniques. That's when the FBI agent pulled us aside. He looked at my dad with recognition. "Lieutenant Morrison, 1st Special Forces Group?" My dad just nodded. The agent turned to us. "Your father led rescue operations in places I can't even name. We tried to recruit him for years." The full story came out gradually. Dad had been Army Special Forces for 12 years. Multiple deployments, classified operations, a chest full of medals he'd never shown us. He'd left it all behind when Mom got pregnant with me, became an accountant, and never talked about it. When reporters asked why he charged an active shooter, he said, "I saw kids in danger. Training kicked in." When they called him a hero, he pointed to the first responders. "Those are your heroes. I just did what I knew how to do." But the moment that made him a true legend, we were leaving the fairgrounds when a woman ran up to us crying. She was holding a little boy, maybe 7 years old. "You saved my son," she sobbed to my dad. "He was right in the line of fire. You saved my baby." My dad knelt down to the boy's level and said, "You were very brave today. Sometimes scary things happen, but look, you're safe, your mom's safe, and tomorrow will be better." He gave the kid a small flag from his pocket. "Hold on to this when you feel scared, okay?" As we walked away, I asked Dad why he never told us about his military career. He put his hand on my shoulder and said, "Because I didn't want you to think violence made someone special. I'd rather you know me as the dad who helps with math homework than the one who knows 17 ways to disarm a gunman." The state fair shooter got life without parole. 15 families wrote letters thanking my dad. The Army wanted to give him another commendation, but he declined. He just wanted to go back to being an accountant who coached Little League and made terrible dad jokes.